Hello everyone, my name is Davinder Singh and I work as a senior cybersecurity consultant in DataSpace Security. And in today's topic, we will try to cover some basic industrial training in ethical hacking. So let's begin. So these are the agendas which we will follow. So we'll start with introduction to industrial training, some examples of industrial training, some process steps. We'll take one example how the steps and goals are being performed. So let's begin. Now coming back to the what is industrial training. So basically industrial training, we can say in ethical hacking is beginning and ending of a process of how we start with our ethical hacking process and in the end how we conclude with reporting and everything. So it includes few steps like first we can take example of permission from clients, where in ethical hacking we take permission from our clients and without defining the scope and just inbounding to the scope and performing with the testing. And then we can say second over here where documentation of steps. So whatever actions and whatever testing we will be performing, everything is documented and sent to the client. Then making sure that whatever actions and whatever assessment we are performing, we are making sure that those are reversible. Okay, there should not be any permanent harm to the client's application or network. So the last point we can say making sure the main system is not harmed, could be performing testing in a UAT environment, means we do not perform in the main branch so that if any kind of harm or any kind of damage is done to the application, that does not harm their main branch. So we can perform it on a UAT platform which is similar to the main branch, having all the same configurations, yet it is a dummy one. So the main goal is to access organization strength and weakness and to develop a security methodology and provide the in-depth security to the clients. So we'll take one example over here. We'll take a VIPT process, which we call it as a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So we can list down some steps and training procedures followed in VIPT, which is basically goals and objectives, scopes, some information gathering, vulnerability detections, and information analysis and planning. So let's discuss this in a brief manner. So under goals and objectives, we can categorize it as fulfillment of assessment, trying to understand what are the goals, what are the scopes the client wants us to test in their application or network. And once that scope is done, we need to find the scope of the testing they require. Like, do they want us to perform a black box testing? Do they want us to perform a white box? Do they want us to perform as a gray box? So these are the scopes which we require from a client. So once that is finalized, we proceed with information gathering, which is one of the main phases. So in the information gathering, we try to find out suppose the networks, some IP address, the operating system which is on which the application is hosted, what all programming languages have been used, their versions and everything, etc. So we need to keep a note that all these things are required in all three phases of scope, which is basically black box, gray box and white box. So whatever be the scope we are testing, information gathering is always the main performed, and if our information gathering is not performed correctly, so it could lead us to missing some major critical vulnerabilities. So now next step we come to vulnerability detection. So basically in this process we use some automated tools, so it can be for network, it could be Nessus and NetSparker. So these automated tools, we configure these applications over there and we perform automation scanning through this. Then information gathering, in which we analyze and devise and plan the penetration testing into the network in the system. Now let's go a deep down and we can see how we perform a VIPT. So as we discussed what is VIPT, now let's see how to perform a VIPT. So in this we can see total 5 steps, which is basically setup, text execution, vulnerability analysis, reporting and remediation. So we can all see this is a cycle which we have to follow. So let's discuss these 5 steps. So the first thing is setup. So setup is basically setting documentations, the tools which we are using, configuration of those tools, and etc. etc. Then comes test execution. So in test execution is basically executing the tools and extracting the report out of it, and then doing the further analysis, coming to vulnerability analysis. So based on the report what is generated, the penetration tester will go ahead and perform the analysis on that measure, so they can categorize the issues based on the criticality. It could be severe, critical, high, low. So based on the scope and the vulnerability criticality, we will do the analysis, do a penetration testing on to see if the issue is a true positive or a false positive. Then comes the reporting part, where once our analysis is done, we go ahead and perform a final report and send it to our client. So this final report is different from the report which is being extracted, because this final report creates a conclusion where the false positive issues are removed and the true positive issues are only there, and we categorize those issues and we send a final report to the client. Then comes remediation part. So remediation part is as important as doing the analysis and scanning, test execution, because remediation is a solution which we have to give to a client to make sure they implement and they do not find the vulnerability in the next phase. So remediations are always preferable and are always insisted being given to the client in the phases where we go ahead and discuss these remediations with the client or the development team or the team which is making sure that they are implementing the code and the of the application. So this is the basic VIPT steps of how it is performed. So now we have covered a basic industrial training of how in the VIPT it is performed, and how using some various steps, how we go from the beginning till ending of the process and give the final report to the client. Happy learning, guys.